Hey guys, Harv here, and welcome back to the Kerbal space program. This is the game in which we can construct massive things using and basically taking advantage of the incredible physics engine that the game has. A physics engine that allows such things as artificial gravity to be achieved. Now, currently the most viewed video on my channel is a video in which I test out my artificial gravity ring. Basically a massive ring that exploits centripetal force to recreate some kind of force or attraction to the side as the ring spins. So people standing inside it, they get pulled down, you know, similar to how if you have water at the base of a bucket and you swing it around your head, it gets pulled to the base of the bucket. And that's my most successful video to date. Now, I said that was a finale, or after that I made a finale. However, on the thumbnail you may have noticed that says, Artificial Gravity, the finale. Probably. Well, turns out, probably not, because here we have another video in that spirit. However, forget about that for now. This is a helicopter. This is a stock helicopter created by a very clever person who I can't quite remember the name of. Sorry, you've probably seen this on Scott Manley's channel, on various other channels. If I remember the name, I will credit him, because it's an incredible thing. Look at it. Kerbal space program. Having helicopters. Isn't that the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen? Now, forgetting how does this work, as in, how does it actually work physically? Shouldn't it really not work? The most important bit, if you checked your Steam, please post below in the comments. The most important bit of this for me is the bearing. KSP at the moment doesn't have any mechanics, and it's something that I feel, as do a lot of other people, I feel is sorely missing from the game. It would be so brilliant to have some sort of mechanics that allow rotation like we have in this helicopter here, allow opening and closing of doors, hangar bay kind of things, you know, loading bays for shuttles, some interesting stuff like that. If only. Now, this helicopter uses a kind of artificial bearing, which I'm going to attempt to reconstruct now. And the way it works is that it actually separates the rotors and makes them into a different vessel. So, one of the updates a while ago to try and stabilize versions was that parts of the same vessel don't collide. So, if you have, say, landing gear opening through a fuel tank, it will just open through it if they're connected. However, if they're not part of the same vessel, then those landing gear will collide and it will push the fuel tank around. So if you have a fuel tank that looks kind of like what we are building here, and it's got a spinny bearing a little bit in the middle, and you have some landing gear pushing it inwards, you can keep it there. And if you position your bearings correctly, like I'm going to attempt to do now, you can allow it to spin. Because obviously the wheels can turn and the fuel tank can turn in between them. So if you manage to make something just like this, you can make an object attached, or seemingly attached. Physically it's not actually part of the same vessel, but seemingly attached to your craft that is spinning, but you're not. Going back to what I was talking about at the start of the video, artificial gravity, a ring which spins and people stand inside it. The problem with making an artificial gravity station is that if you're trying to spin this massive ring, everything is turning. You can't dock ships to it because they'd have to do some crazy maneuver coming in from the side and getting up to a velocity or pushing themselves in and trying to dock at the same speed, and it just wouldn't work particularly well in the station in everyday kind of use. And if you've got a vessel that's trying to rotate in artificial gravity and still going somewhere at the same time, which is the example that I gave in the video where I talked about, or I made the artificial gravity ring, you use it so that people's bones don't decay, they don't get weak and fragile on trips in microgravity to other planets over the long 1 or 2 year durations. But in that circumstance, if you're having to spin at the same time as trying to navigate and turning around, it makes things awfully complicated. So if you can have this spinning section which is seemingly connected to the rest of the ship. Of course, in real life, we'd actually be able to connect it to the rest of the ship because we have such things, such wonderful, magical things called motors. But in the Kerbal universe, they don't. So you can have this ring spinning on top of a stationary vessel. And you can have that as a station, space station, so ships can come and dock. You could have that as an interplanetary vessel, so all you need is this spinning bearing at the top, and the rest of the ship can function just like a completely normal craft. It's a worthy goal, and it's what I've just spent the first 5 minutes nearly of this video making in the background. Now I'm going to check that Steam message. Someone's asking me to come for a match of Dota. Sorry, bit busy. I'm not going to talk because you won't like clattering of keys. But we've made this thing, haven't we? We've made our system. We've put a ring. We've replaced the rotors on the helicopter with this big ring. We've got engines on the outside to give it some rotation. And now what we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we've closed landing gear. We're going to... There's another Steam message. We're going to open the landing gear and disconnect the thing. And hopefully it will stay in the middle and be able to turn. It works, look at it, it works. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work perfectly because we seem to have some wobbling, which as the thing speeds up, because there's no friction and the rockets just keep on firing, as it accelerates, it does tend to wobble quite a bit more. Unfortunately, I'm still getting messaged on Steam. But look at this thing. Look at this thing. I'm going to put my Steam onto offline. Hang on. Friends list. Ignore any friend requests. Offline. Thank you. Right. Now I can concentrate on this. So there are a few problems with this. And it looks like, as you can see, the landing gear actually aren't always touching the center stage bit. And that's a problem we need to solve right now. So we're going to go back into the VAB, we're going to come out of the VAB, having readjusted things slightly. You'll notice that the landing gear pointing inwards is actually like alternating in its direction, another attempt to stop it from swaying so much, and it seems to work. This is full throttle, this is literally the fastest acceleration we can get out of this ring in its current design, and it's working perfectly well. No major collisions, no things spiralling off and spinning away and hitting the VAB. Everything seems to work really well. And I've got rotors pointing the opposite way, or I've got, you know, engines pointing the opposite way, so we can slow the things down fairly quickly. That's it. That's our prototype design, I guess. It works. Let's strap it on top of a ship and let's send it up into space. Now, a few of you may understand why this isn't necessarily a good thing to do, to start off with, and the problems that may be caused by just doing something so simple, and also some of you may be looking bewildered at, hang on, that launch stage is only half a tank, and the fuel's not going down, what's going on, why is he cheating? I'm using developer debug commands, which you can access by holding Alt and pressing F12, and I'm using the infinite fuel hack, basically. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm not going to bother using or rebuilding a launch stage every single time I change something. This is testing. This is all, if you would like to imagine it as such, theoretical. This is all theoretical testing. We're modelling this in a computer, which we are, technically. We are using a computer to play the game and model the thing, so, you know, that's absolutely fine. So we're going to get this thing into orbit. We're going to get its apoapsis up out of the atmosphere, warp up to that apoapsis and burn prograde. This is a very, very quick tutorial on how to orbit, for those of you who still can't. Seriously guys, just learn. There's plenty of YouTube guides. You need to be able to do this. It's the fundamental skill in KSP. Once you're in orbit, you're halfway to anywhere. So we get into an orbit, it's fairly circular, we don't have to worry about that. We turn to point towards the north, which is a stable position, we don't have to worry about that. We start up these engines, and we get ready to burn. Burning both of them so we don't actually rotate yet. And now we're going to raise those landing gear, hopefully. If I just look, there we go, raise landing gear. And now we just need to close the landing gear, turn off half of the engine so the thing will spin, and then decouple this docking port to make it a separate vessel. Okay, this is the first proper test in real circumstances. Okay, right. Raise the landing gear, turn it off, decouple, and it breaks. It's just, oh, bye, sorry. The thing just, you know, starts spinning and it just kind of wanders away. And unfortunately, I didn't quick save, which was a damn stupid thing not to do. So we just end up back here with this fuel tank and, yeah, great. And that's that. Okay, right, we'll launch the entire thing again, because I didn't quick save, and we'll do the same thing again. We're going to actually test it. So both engines on, so we don't start spinning yet, and we have the landing gear raised, I believe, and then we'll start one of the engines. No, we have both the engines on. This is kind of, you know, I'm really nervous at this point. I really want it to work. I haven't spotted the flaw in my argument yet. I haven't spotted the flaw in the design. So we have both engines burning, so we're not rotating yet. Landing gear is raised. We're going to get ready, get ready, get ready, and we're going to, come on, tense, tension. We're going to close landing gear, engines, the Kerbal, and yes, we're still connected. Things haven't broken, but we're spinning. We're spinning, and that's good. That's, if anything was inside that ring, it would be feeling centripetal force. It's good, yeah, but the station's spinning, or the ship itself is spinning, and why is that? Surely it's on a bearing, surely it's not going to spin. Well, it is, because it's not frictionless. There's always going to be a bit of friction between the actual vessel, or the two vessels, so the spinning will be translated onto the ship itself. Unless we do something about it. Now, what if we were to put some counterspin on? We could put some engines, couldn't we? We could put some engines at the base of the other ship, and we could have them pushing in the opposite direction. Or we could ensure we have exactly the same amount of twist in the opposite direction by just mirroring the ring. So now we've got two rings for the price of one, basically. And this should work, hopefully. So we remake the bearing, we make sure that we've got everything on it. We're actually just doing this for the point of demonstration right now. What we'll do is both sides will be symmetrical. So we'll make one design, and then we'll put it up, and then we'll launch the same design again on a different launch stage, and we'll dock it. And we're just going to make sure it is docked perfectly fine, because of course we don't want the two halves separating and spinning off in their own little worlds, their own little directions. So we're going to put some docking ports down the middle, put some solar panels. I thought solar panels because A, it's supposed to be a base station, and as a definition I said in a video a very long time ago, if you have a ship and solar panels, you have a space station. You know, that's it. No argument there. So we have solar panels, but also it's fairly good there because it will help us. The 2D-ness will help us see whether the thing's moving or not. And lo and behold, the thing's not moving. We must have got it right. Oh wait, we're clamped to the ground. Okay, yeah, there's that. But other than that, it is working absolutely fine. The two systems, they are spinning in opposite directions. We're not getting any major wobble. This ground-based test seems to be fairly successful as of yet. And yeah, it does seem to work perfectly fine. So, I guess if we split this in half and use one of the halves and strap it on top of another hacked rocket, we should be able to send this thing up into orbit and hopefully this time get it right. So we put on infinite fuel by holding Alt F12, just so no one actually asks in the comments, as I know they will anyway. Alt F12 brings up the developer debug console, and then you can do infinite fuel. So we're going to get this thing up into an orbit, and hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, if I actually remember to quick save as well in case something does go wrong, we'll send up the other half, dock them together, and then we'll be on our way, merrily making a space station. And you'll notice I've actually added to this version, I've added docking ports onto the side of the fuel tanks we've got in the centre. So we will be able to dock ships to it should we desire. Not in this video, but maybe in another video at some point, I don't know. I might call this Finale Part 2! or something like that. I probably won't. Sounds a bit silly to keep on with that pretense. This is a project I enjoy far too much as we turn this thing to face north in a stable position. This concept of artificial gravity in KSP is something I enjoy far too much to ever give up on it. There are always ways to improve and upgrade. So now we've actually got a proper system and we're making a space station. Where could we take this? Well, we could make an interplanetary vessel that has this. There are problems with that because there's one thing we need to improve, which we haven't even discussed yet, which is the matter of actually docking it back on. Because when you time accelerate, and we've just done the launch and we've got these two vessels, identical vessels, up into orbit, when you time accelerate in the KSP, in the Kerbal Space Program, collision stops. So the reason this bearing works at all, still haven't remembered the guy's name, the reason it works at all is that the wheels of the landing gear are colliding with the fuel tank in between them. They're pushing it into the centre, they're keeping it there. If there was no collision, if things could pass through each other, separate vessels, it would just float away very slowly. And when you time warp, that happens. So unless we want to go to other planets in real time, we're not going to be able to use this system in its current state. However, bearing in mind this thing works by having docking ports separated, those docking ports could always dock again, and we could just make it part of the same vessel again. Unfortunately, in this prototype version we currently have in orbit, prototype because it's not been put up by legitimate means, we will be making a proper launch stage, we will be getting this thing to work. But yeah, unfortunately all the docking ports at the centre aren't actually docked. I assumed that every single docking port would be the same height. Not true. Turns out the senior docking ports aren't the same height as the standard medium ones, so they aren't all docked properly, and unfortunately the one that is docked is one of the edges, not the central docking port. That's the one that if any of them was going to be docked, that's the one we would want, and it's not. So anyway, bearing in mind that that might be a problem, we'll just move on. We're going to set these engines spinning, separate them, open landing gear, everything works. And everything works. Everything works. Look at it. Despite the kind of wobbling in the centre, which may be a problem, it works. These things are spinning in opposite directions. No catch whatsoever. They just plain work. And the central bit is stable. We could dock. You can imagine docking ships onto those docking ports there. Easily. They might wobble a little bit because there's surely going to be some friction from those massive spinning wheels. But that works, and that's really quite beautiful. That's what I set out to achieve, and that's what I've achieved. As of now, that's a success, which is a lie, because this station wasn't put up there by legitimate means, and it's not finished. Those docking ports in the centre need to be docked together for it to work properly. Well, no, they don't, but those docking ports in the centre should be docked together to work properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the tanks, make them a bit more uniform, and use these big ones entirely. And due to sheer perseverance, if I just put it on, take it off, put it on, come on, work, come on, just work, damn you. Oh, it worked. Oh, okay. Yeah, that surprised me. That really caught me off guard. It was like, you know how things don't really work properly in KSB, you know, put it on, it won't work properly, and it should, just keep on putting it on. You never actually expect it to work, and it actually just did randomly, which is really strange. But good, because it means we can carry on building. So now we're going to quickly build our launch stage at 4 times acceleration in the video editor. Excuse me. So yeah, docking ports everywhere, struts everywhere. Hopefully we're going to get the ship shape, and we're going to use the Spacia launch system, which I developed in one of those videos a while ago. If you want to see the development of this, please go search for that. It's called Spacia launch system. Future me won't remember to put an annotation or anything, so please just take matters into your own hands, which I know is a big thing to ask for some people. But yeah, so we'll just build this thing again, because it's actually come to my attention recently. And I seem, as I think a lot of other YouTubers do, I have the impression that when I make these videos, I make them for someone who has watched every single other video I've done, which is really not a, you know, that's not a reasonable expectation to make. I subscribe to people, obviously, the people I watch. I don't watch every single one of their videos. So when I come on talking about, oh, you've all seen this before, it's actually, there are probably a large majority of people who actually haven't. So my launch stage, as I'm just going to quickly explain it, it works asparagus style, which means the central core of it is surrounded by 3 pairs of tanks, which every single engine feeds off the first pair, including the one at the bottom of it. And then once that's empty, we drop that, lightening up the load, and then every single engine feeds off the next pair in sequence, which we then drop. And that was Steam again, except this time the noise was sped up to 4 times. So if you checked your Steam at that point, congratulations! But yeah, and then the next pair, and then the next pair, until we have the final pair. It's basically pretty efficient way of managing fuel. Unfortunately, despite how efficient the system is, it doesn't stop things breaking. Now, in this instance, the rightmost stack has actually separated. The grey tank is separated from the orange one. And as you'll see, when the contents of the grey tank runs out, it just kind of floats away. And then I try and detach the rest, and it explodes the engine because it collides. See, collision between vessels. Really useful for our purposes today, but still kind of annoying. So, yeah, we basically go back to the VAB, we spend 10 minutes restrutting everything together. KSP tip of the day, and every other day, strut everything. Just put struts on everything. It'll work, trust me, probably. So there's no making up for some really incompetent designs, but if you're okay, struts will help you. So yes, you'll see the stage in action now. So we drop pair by pair, and each consecutive pair takes longer to drain because there's less engines feeding off of it. It's a really good way to regulate speed as well, because you have less engines, so you have less thrust, and as you get as you are in the lower atmospheres to start off with, you really don't want to be going too fast, because drag increases with velocity, so you end up fighting more to push past the air, and that's a waste of fuel, when you could just slide through at a slightly lower velocity and save more fuel. However, this is the KSP. We don't really need to worry about that kind of thing. As long as our design's good enough, we don't really have to worry about such things as fuel efficiency like that. It's just something to bear in mind. So we separate the remainder of our pairs, or our central stack, and we get this thing into a pretty good orbit, and we warp up the apoapsis, do some circularization, and that is the first half of our final version put together in space. The first half. So that's in space now. We're pointed north or south as we always do. The reason, again, along the same track as not everyone's watched everything, the reason we point it north is because if you do some orbiting, you'll notice that your ship, as you time warp round the planet, remains stationary in one relative direction. So if you point towards the horizon, say along 90 degrees, and then as you time warp around the planet, you stay pointing in one direction, so it looks like you're spinning head over heels as you go around it. If you point north, however, and you go around the equator, you end up still pointing north. So you just end up spinning rotation-wise rather than, head over heels. So it's just a kind of stable position to do. Good for space stations. And good for things like this, which are going to be spinning anyway. So it makes it kind of easy to dock with. But yes, we did the orbital launch again. We now have two segments of a hole up here in orbit, both pretty much identical, except for one thing. We have docking systems on these ships, obviously because we need to dock them, but that means that one will be docked to the other. So there's actually less mass, there's actually less monopropellant RCS fuel in this one we're currently using than there is in the other one. Shouldn't make a difference, really, in the scheme of things, but it might, just saying. But anyway, we'll bring them up next to each other, we'll bring them up, get them close in for docking, push them, and they all dock first time. Perfectly. Absolutely perfect. What more could you ask for? We'll extend the solar panels, and we shall prepare to warp round to the light side of Kerbal. See, spinning head over heels, the solar panels, yeah. And now we're in the daytime, we can get ready for our final test in the next episode. No, I'm just kidding. Don't worry, we will actually do it today. You don't have to go and click another video. Of course we're going to test it. So, we have the engine spinning in the opposite direction. This is the finale. This is the one that needs to work. The other one worked beautifully, but it wasn't legitimate. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite go to plan. More things breaking off, except this time, we quick-saved. So that's not a massive deal. Again, we'll burn, and we'll get things to try and work, and the thing is spinning, the centre isn't perfectly stationary, but it does seem to be working fairly well. There we go. Yes! I mean, the thing's at an angle, spinning at an angle for some reason, but it does actually work, and the solar panels do seem to be fairly straight, It's wobbling more than the prototype was, the illegitimate version, as I like to call it now, as I literally just thought of. The illegitimate version wobbled significantly less, which is a real shame because prototypes shouldn't work better than the final product, but I don't know how to solve this. It might be the mass issue, maybe, but I kind of doubt it. I don't know, maybe there was some sort of suspension going on because it wasn't docked properly. Maybe it was taking some of the force of the wobbling by moving in and out. I don't know, but it works well enough. This thing is definitely, it's definitely a possibility for making space stations. You could put these things on your space stations, buy now and order now and buy one ring, get one ring free, you know. You could put them, you could use them. They definitely do work, which is the main thing. They're not 100% reliable, but they work. The actual basics physics of it works fairly well. Now, what I was talking about earlier was that if you could maybe somehow dock them back together, it would be a good idea. Unfortunately, that kind of has complication because when you undock, the magnetism between those two docking ports automatically turns itself off. Because otherwise, if you undock, you'd immediately be pulled back towards the docking port. So if you don't go too far away, the magnetism will remain turned off. And if you try and stop that from happening and try and turn it back on by reloading the save, things like this can happen. Because whilst you're away, obviously it's not going to calculate physics on every single object in your craft, so they might just end up slipping the bonds of your landing gear and just drifting away in space, which can be quite frustrating. But I have had a few successful times where I've done that. I've come straight back from the tracking station, I've closed the landing gear before collision turns on, and I've managed to get them docked together. So the system could work, there is potential in there. Unfortunately, I haven't got any footage of that actually working as of yet. That may be something I'll do in another video in the future, if we take it to another planet, say. But for the finale, just to wrap things up, because it kind of seems like an anticlimax just to end, well, that's it. It was a success, I suppose, so yeah, done. That would be a bit disappointing. So I think we've got Kerbal out, we've put him in a seat inside the ring, and now we're going to subject him to some artificial gravity. So we burn our engines in the opposite direction, once more preparing to open his landing gear, detach and let them spin. The thing in the middle goes shaking around wildly, which is a bit annoying, not really perfect for space stations, but then again they just stay fairly gentle next. And we have both rings spinning at even speeds, or roughly even speeds. If we take a look at our Kerbal strapped into his seat going around this ring, I wonder what force he's subjected to, and maybe we can try and experience it with him by going into chase camera view. Oh, doesn't that make you dizzy? Not quite as dizzy, I'd warrant, as the finale video of Artificial Gravity. If you haven't seen those videos, I really do recommend going back and watching them. I mean, of course I would, they're my videos, but seriously, it's really good. I talk about the maths, I talk about the actual physics behind how artificial gravity is generated by this spinning and centripetal or slash centrifugal force. Yeah, it's really quite interesting. So if I'd recommend any videos, I'd recommend those. But you've watched this one, and thank you very much for doing that. If you liked this video, please do like this video. I really want you guys to support my most ambitious projects like these, and hopefully I'll have some more videos for you in the future. Thanks again for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Hey guys, Harv here with something very different coming at you right now. This is something I've been planning very tentatively for a couple of weeks now, and it's finally getting ever closer. We're 2 weeks away from the start of my Kerbal Polar Expedition, a series of daily live streams in which we're going to be doing about 3 hours or so at a time, live streams where I'm going to drive from the Kerbal Space Center all the way up to the North Pole. It's something that's going to take approximately 20 hours or so, best guess. That's allowing for several failures, level crashes, and something probably completely unexpected. In those different live streams, we're going to be having various guests. I've already got confirmations from Ryan, the Solar Gamer, XX, Goldfish XX, who has previously done a 24-hour charity live stream. And yes, this one will be a charity live stream as well. We're going to be supporting the charity water, in fact. More people die from drinking dirty water than all forms of violence, and that includes war. It's the statement that's on the very front of the Charity Water website, and it's something that has got quite a bit of attention a while ago, but I haven't noticed anything recently. It's still such a worthy cause, and it's what I've chosen to back in our live stream. We've got a campaign page which can be seen by clicking any of the links either on the screen right now or in the description below. And it's basically just a little summary of what my mission is, my mission statement, to basically just do some good with this massive audience that I've managed to amass. And it's something that's been nagging me for a while, and this is my solution to it. I've got all of you guys watching my videos, and I feel like I'm just sitting here making entertainment, which is fine, but I feel like I've got the potential to really do some good, and hopefully promoting this cause is one way to achieve that. So come on down, the details are all on the screen right now. We're going to be streaming, as I said, daily for 3-hour sessions from midday to 3 PM GMT on the days Monday the 5th of August to Friday the 9th of August. It's a time when a lot of people are probably away on holiday, but hopefully there'll be many around to tune in. So please do come and support us, please do come watch the stream. Gonna have a lot of fun, probably a lot of hilarity will ensue, and I'm going to hopefully see you there.